Hello everybody, it's Foo here, and welcome to week 3 of the WBE. Mewcastle United are doing well so far. We've picked up 2 wins and no losses, which is great. We had a surprise mini sweep by Kabutops last week, and this week we're going up against GalacticElliott and his Chicago Cubchoos. This one is going to be an interesting one. It's kind of similar to last week actually, but just a little bit tougher in my opinion for a couple of reasons. So I'll go into the matchup and my team that I'm bringing. If you're just interested in the battle, check the timestamp in the comment section below. And also make sure you go and check out his side of the battle, which should be going up at the same time as this one, so go to GalacticElliott's channel for that. But first, let's have a look at the matchup. And there are a couple of things that I'm worried about. Now, one good thing is that his Mega isn't that threatening this week, because it's Mega Beedrill and I have Mega Aerodactyl that's a faster Mega that would always beat it. And I have a couple of things that can switch in a little bit, and I've also got some priority to take it on, so that's good. His Mega's not the big issue. What the big issue is are his Psychic types. Slowbro stops my Mega Aerodactyl in its tracks, so I need to be able to whittle that down. And also, he's got Alolan Raichu, which is a massive pain. Now, my team doesn't like Psychic types anyway, but combined with the Electric typing, that makes it really hard to deal with. So I'm going to have to lean on Slowbro quite a lot to be able to take them on, and I've also made sure that I've got my Aerodactyl can take it on fine, but what I'm really concerned about is an agility Raichu. So I'm even bringing a really interesting Nidoking set that should hopefully be able to help deal with that. Everything else should be fine, but it's just that Alolan Raichu that gave me some headaches in the team prep. So I'll show you the team that I'm bringing. Some weirder stuff that I had to catch specifically for this battle, but some of it's exactly the same as last week. So here we've got my Mega Aerodactyl exactly the same as last week, because it does pretty much a similar job. It can clean up late game as long as Slowbro is weakened and his ground type is weakened too, which is actually Marowak. Now I'm not sure if he'll bring it because he's got 2 potential Stealth Rockers in Aero and Marowak. He's got non-Mega Aerodactyl, but I don't know. I think Marowak's a really good bring, but Aero is actually deceptively good too. Despite me having Mega Aerodactyl, it's still faster than everything else on my team and can do some damage. But anyway, yeah, this thing can sweep late game, and I've got the crunch on there for Slowbro. The next Pokemon we're bringing is actually going to be an Impish Poliwrath. This thing can switch into U-turns pretty well. It also helps me with things like the Aerodactyl and potentially Rapidash, and also the Marowak, and it does have Waterfall and Ice Punch on there specifically for Vileplume. It also helps with Kangaskhan. It's pretty useful, not brought for anything really specifically, but it's just good to have this guy tanky and good switch into lots of things. Slowbro is very important for, as I said, the Raichu and the Slowbro, and he does a lot of damage to everything apart from the Slowbro, so it might be a 1-for-1 with the Slowbro, but it can do, if it gets the Skull burn, Facade is doing tons of damage to pretty much everything on his team. If this thing gets burned, Facade switch-ins are very few and far between. Ice Punch is there to be able to hit Aerodactyl. Earthquake is there to do as much damage as possible to Alolan Raichu, really, more than anything. And then Toxic is there to help me 1v1 the Slowbro. The next thing is going to be my Kabutops. Now again, I wasn't sure on the last member of this team. I built for week 2 and week 3 at the same time because they were very similar teams. And I actually was erring on the side of Articuno because it can actually take hits from Alolan Raichu surprisingly well. But I decided this guy, after his performance last week, definitely deserved to come again, just to try and rack up a few more kills, and it's just very good. I mean, this week actually, more than last week, if I get a Swords Dance up, it could actually sweep. So I think this has a better matchup than last week. So hopefully we'll see Kabutops putting in some more work. We've got a very important Venusaur. Now this thing is running the Earthquake specifically to take on the Alolan Raichu again. I can definitely take a Psychic and hit that very hard with Earthquake. We've actually gone Sassy to make sure that we're not reducing our attack because I want Earthquake to do as much damage as possible. Mega Drain there, it threatens a lot of his Pokemon. I guess he might think that Mega Beedrill can come in on this freely, but I think my Earthquake is doing quite a lot of damage. It does about 50%. So it's important not to reduce my attack there, and I don't need my speed as much. And then Sleep Powder is good just to take something out of the game on his side. And then this Pokemon is also very important. This is the weird Nidoking that I said about initially. So I'm actually bringing a specially defensive Nidoking. All that means is it's careful nature rather than anything like Adamant or Jolly or Naive. basically, this is guaranteed to take a Psychic from Raichu, even after 2 Stealth Rock switching, and I always OHKO it with Earthquake. So if he tries to get up an Agility or something and thinks that he can sweep late game, hopefully I'll catch him unaware. This thing can definitely tank a Psychic and take it out with the Earthquake. Which will be really, really good. And it's also my Stealth Rocker, so again, I don't want to be taking damage on this thing, so I'll have to try and get my Stealth Rock up on a switch, or maybe if I put something to sleep with my Venusaur, I can then try and get this thing in to get Stealth Rock up without taking any damage so that I can take on the Alolan Raichu. If the Alolan Raichu comes and is anything other than Agility, it's not a problem, because my Aerodactyl KOs it and wins, basically. But Agility, Alolan Raichu is very scary. Fortunately, pretty much everything on my team, I think. This one-hit KOs it. This does a lot of damage, although I don't really want to stay in on it with this. That's a little bit scary. Then we've got my... this guy OHKOs it. OHKOs Alolan Raichu. This thing does a lot of damage, but again, not really sure I would want to waste this, as it's a potential win condition for me. This does tons of damage. This does tons of damage. So Alolan Raichu will struggle to set up for free, but it's like forcing the prediction, so I need to be careful about that. Anyway, that's the team, and we'll get into the battle in a minute. It's going to be live again. I'll try and do better than last time. I feel like my narration could have been better, but I think I'm a tryhard at heart, and so I apologise if my live narrations aren't very exciting, but I hope that I can put across my thoughts about the competitive battling, because I put a lot of thought behind my moves, and I really, really want to win. I don't like that I'm so competitive, but apparently I'm a very competitive person when it comes to Pokemon, and so like all I can think about is making the best plays, and if my narration suffers because of that, I apologise. But we'll see today if I can do a little bit of a better job. Lol, just kidding, the live recording did not work at all. My recording software just died, so I'm sorry about that. This is going to be a post narration again, but hopefully this will also be good because I can go through all my thoughts and stuff with a bit more time for thinking, because I know what happens, so that's good, and hopefully it can be entertaining in a different way. But it's unfortunate because it was a really good match, and I think the live narration would have been decent, but it didn't work. So anyways, we're going into this. How I'm feeling is like, this one's a tough matchup. Like, I think other people would have harder matchups against Mega Beedrill because I've got the Aero that can take it on really well. But the Alolan Raichu is just so hard to switch in on. I have my Snorlax, but that has to deal with Slowbro as well, so it's going to be a tough one. And Slowbro is basically, like, any physical attackers can do a lot more damage to it, so it invites in some things that I don't really want to invite in either. But yeah, that's what my thoughts were going into it. My lead was always going to be Poliwrath, because it beats his potential Stealth Rockers, so like there wasn't really too much of a doubt in my mind. It beats Marowak, and it beats most of the time Aerodactyl, because I've gone Impish, and I know that Wing Attack, even if he brings that, is not, it's very unlikely to 2-hit KO me. If he's Jolly, it like basically can't 2-hit KO me. If he's Adamant, it's still unlikely that he 2-hit KOs me. So I thought that Poliwrath would be a really good lead. There is a very high possibility that he could also lead with Slowbro, because that beats my Stealth Rockers mainly. But that's okay, because I've got my Hambre, the Snorlax, to switch into in that circumstance, so that's fine. So like, I just thought that Poliwrath would be my best lead. Normally Beedrill would be a good lead, but I really don't think he'd do that, because I've got my Mega Aero, which could be my Rocker, it could be whatever, and it just doesn't really invite Beedrill to be a lead at all. And the same with Raichu, like that's a big win con for him. Once Snorlax has gone, it really goes to town. So I doubt that he would lead that. I think that he'd probably keep that in the back till late game. So what I'm really not wanting to see is probably the Slowbro most of all, just because it puts me on the back foot straight away. But we'll see if that happens or not. So let's get into this. And so if he does lead with Slowbro, it just means that I'm going to switch into Snorlax straight away. If he leads with anything else, it's probably just a waterfall click. So it's pretty easy straight away. He's got the cool rocket gear on, that's decent. And he sends out Mikey, the Slowbro, which is shiny, kudos. But obviously that's not what I wanted to see. Even though it's very beautiful, I need to switch out to my Snorlax. Hopefully he'll go for just a Psychic, because it hits everything on my team. And hopefully it won't be a repeat of last week, because Snorlax really went to waste. Nate brought a really nice combo of Toxic and then a faster substitute user, so that could happen here, and basically the things that I brought Snorlax to beat actually beat Snorlax. So if he goes for a Toxic here, puts me on the back foot. It does mean that my Facade is boosted and nothing really wants to take it on his team, so that will be nice. But I don't really want to see a Facade. If Skull comes out, that's fine as well, because it boosts Facade without taking too much damage. But it's actually Thunder Wave, which is really good for me, because it basically doesn't cripple me too much. I'm already a slow Pokemon, and it gives me that Facade boost. The only thing is that I brought a Jolly Snorlax specifically to outspeed Slowbro, so it means my Nature's doing nothing for me this match. But you can see how much damage that did to Slowbro. I decided to just go for Facade because it hits everything. Even if he wants to go into Aerodactyl, it would have done a good chunk. But he actually opts to go for a Teleport, which I'm fine with, because getting so much damage on the Slowbro is really, really good. It means that it's going to be 2-hit KO'd by a Crunch from my Aerodactyl. So that's put me in a great position early on to sweep with Aerodactyl late game. Just to note, Nate has brought a very good team against me. He's got like Slowbro, Marowak and Kangaskhan that all don't take much damage from Aerodactyl, so I think that those were great brings on his part. And then obviously Alolan Raichu is really good in there too. I wasn't so sure on the Aerodactyl bring, because it's like I've got Mega Aerodactyl, which always comes in and beats it, but I mean it's faster than the rest of my team and does decent damage, so I'm kind of expecting one of his Stealth Rockers to come in here. If it's Marowak, I think I'll go into my Venusaur, and if it is Ridley, which it is, I'm going to go into my Poliwrath, because that's kind of the matchup that I was expecting first turn. Rock Slide won't do anything to me, Earthquake won't do very much to me either, and I can then threaten with Waterfall. Obviously I'm thinking that Stealth Rock comes out here, and I do have Ice Punch on Snorlax that does a ton of damage. It does over half to Aerodactyl. But if he goes for Rock Slide, I'll be taking a lot, and that's my switch into things like both Alolan Raichu and Slowbro. But he goes for the sub, which is okay, because I can take that out. It means that Rocks aren't up, but he does show the Wing Attack here, and I'd be interested to see how much that does. It does 83, which means that he's probably Adamant, and that was a very high roll, because I know I brought Impish specifically because it takes on Aerodactyl really well. So I now know that Wing Attack is unlikely to take me out, because that was a high roll. I found out from my prep. And he may well predict me to do something like go into my Aerodactyl to resist and then outspeed the next turn, or go into just a different Pokemon, maybe my Kabutops. So he may well predict here and go for something like a Rock Slide. He doesn't, he goes for the Wing Attack, but as I said, it was a roll in my favour. I am able to live on 1 HP, which means that my nature, my Impish nature, allowed me to survive, so that is prep at its finest. I mean, I did get lucky there, obviously, and the high roll the first turn worked in my favour, because it meant that Nate thought he would be able to take me out. He saw it go from green to yellow, which means he's done over half, and so he thought that he'd be able to take me out, but he can't. And so I did get lucky there, definitely got lucky there. If he had taken me out, that's fine, because it just meant that I could get into my Aerodactyl and put some pressure on his team, although he obviously has switch-ins at this stage, but chipping them away would have been really good for me too. But this is great, because it means that I've gotten rid of his Aerodactyl early, which would have been frustrating to try and revenge later on. But yeah, I've got a 1 HP Poliwrath, not going to be too helpful. I mean, I do have things I could switch in on Kangaskhan, but I think that preserving HP on the rest of my Pokemon that are all full health at the moment is probably a better thing. I'm just going to go for a Superpower. Fake Out was very likely there, but I wasn't going to switch into my Aerodactyl, which would have resisted and taken nothing, because if Aerodactyl doesn't beat Kangaskhan, it just doesn't really do enough damage to Kangaskhan, and I need it healthy for later on. So here I could have done a couple of things, but I do think that my Venusaur is my best play here, because it allows me to sleep powder. I could have gone into like Nidoking, but he outspeeds my Nidoking, and I want to keep it healthily to take on Raichu a bit better. So here I'm just going to click the sleep powder. I'm actually realising now that Kangaskhan is a bit of a problem. Like, I don't have a very easy way of taking it down. I've got a superpower on my Nidoking, but it outspeeds my Nidoking. It doesn't take it out with anything, but I want to keep Nidoking healthy to help out with Raichu. And then I've got other stuff which easily takes hits from it, but doesn't do tons of damage. So yeah, that thing's going to be a problem now, and is the biggest thing standing in the way of my Aerodactyl sweeping, really. So anyway, I go for the Sleep Powder here. Interestingly, he switches out into his Slowbro, which I was like, okay, maybe it's just a sleep sack, because he knows that it can't take on my Aerodactyl anymore, so he can put that to sleep and then switch into something else to take me on. But he doesn't really have very good switch-ins on my Mega Drain. Now here I went for Earthquake, predicting him, because I thought that this would just be sleep fodder so that he could then pivot into his Raichu and threaten me out. So I was trying to catch the Raichu there, but that didn't happen. I knew he had a Sleep Turn to burn anyway if he stayed in, so now I can make the Mega Drain play. If he switches into Raichu here, that would have been insane, like, scouting predictions, but that's not what happens. I do actually just take out the Slowbro there, which is good for me because it means that I can now put something else to sleep. So the Slowbro sack is fine. I mean, it works out really well for me because it's one less thing to worry about for Aerodactyl, and it's actually allowing my Kabutops a bit of an easier sweep later on, potentially. So getting rid of that thing is always a good thing. But what I'm concerned about now is if he goes into Raichu, he might be able to set up because it's full health. At the same time, I've shown Earthquake, so I think he'd be less likely to set up because, yeah, Earthquake will do a lot of damage to Raichu, like about 80%. So Vegetrouble, causing trouble once again. Very solid Pokemon in this format. I do think it's the best grass type aside from obviously the Mega version of it. It's like powerful, it's got good coverage. The Earthquake is great for catching the poison types, fire types, steel types that might want to do something. You've got the Sleep Powder for anything else that might actually be able to take it on. But the Raichu does come out. Now, I know that I can live one hit from Raichu pretty easily because Venusaur has really good special bulk. So a Psychic should be doing around 60%. My Earthquake will do a lot more to the Raichu, and I just can't let it set up. Basically, what I wanted to do was tank this hit, which fortunately I do, no crits or anything like that. That could have been a problem. Get the Earthquake damage off, and this always puts it in range of my Kabutops Aqua Jet, which means that even if it sets up with Agility, I should be fine because I've got my Sicklening the Aqua Jet Kabutops. So right here I think preserving my Venusaur is actually a good idea because it helps out with Marowak that still could be a problem. Aerodactyl doesn't take it out, and it's physically bulky, so it could take a hit from my Kabutops. So I'm actually just going to go into my Snorlax, which is definitely more sackable now that Slowbro's gone and this thing is weakened. That's really the main things I brought it for. So I decided to go into my Snorlax here and just go for a Facade. If Raichu switches out, importantly, it will probably not survive a Stealth Rock switch in, so if I can get Rocks up, that would be really good. But yeah, I can just go for a Facade right here. Raichu doesn't have a nickname, which is kind of sad. Everything else does, like Ridley and Mikey. I wonder why. Anyway, we're going for the Facade, and nothing can switch in on this at this point. Maybe Marowak, but it will take a lot of damage, and I'm just so thankful for that paralysis because it's made my Snorlax really, really, really great in this game. I think Snorlax KO'd Raichu with Earthquake anyway, but there was no point me going for Earthquake, obviously. It's very low health. Facade hits everything on his team, and yeah, Elliott won't really have switch-ins. So in terms of how I'm doing and how I'm going to win, Aerodactyl actually might not be the way that I'm going to do that at this point because Kangaskhan is still healthy and Marowak is still healthy. But if I can get Chip on everything, Kabutops is looking very good. Kabutops is looking really, really good right now. So Baby Mama actually comes in. I'm able to get Facade on that, and I was so surprised that he switched this in because, like, it was one of the biggest things stopping my Aerodactyl and also my Kabutops. Like, it was just really bulky, can take hits from most things. And actually, I'm not even sure that it can take out my Snorlax. Maybe if it had superpower, but I'm going to go for a Facade here. Obviously, he's getting the Fake Out Chip, which does very little. Like, I think I underestimate how bulky Snorlax is. I know that it can take special hits for days, but just because of its high HP stat, even though its defense stat isn't very good, it can still take physical hits really well. So Facade is a 2-8 KO, and I couldn't believe that. This is really good. If Kangaskhan goes down, pretty much nothing stops my Kabutops at this stage. He's still got his Mega Beedrill in the back, but obviously that's really frail on the physical side, and my physical attacks will do tons of damage. And he's actually going for Earthquake here. Now, if he had something like Headbutt, that could have been a real problem, because obviously I'm paralyzed and it could flinch me. I do actually get paralyzed there, which means that my facade doesn't go off, and there's a chance that he will be able to take my Snorlax out. I'm not too upset at this stage though, because this Kangaskhan is something that I would be able to get a Swords Dance up on. So if I went down there, basically it wasn't the end of the world. I'd bring my Kabutops, go for the Swords Dance, and pretty much sweep from there. But that's not what happens. I take out the Kangaskhan. That's good for Aerodactyl, so not in a bad position here. And whatever he brings in next, I can probably deal with. Now, I was expecting one of his physical attackers here because they do handle my Snorlax better, but Raichu could come out. I'm at low health, but Snorlax has a lot of special bulk, so I wouldn't be very confident if I was him that a hit from Raichu would take me out. But Raichu might be the best play, because if I do manage to get Stealth Rock up on anything else, then it dies, so maybe it would be a good idea to try and get it in now. But yeah, I'm looking really strong right now. I think that probably Aero can sweep at this stage, because Marowak, I can live one hit from Marowak. So I am at really low health. Probably zero chance of me living a special hit, actually, looking at it now. Psychic will probably be coming out. It's actually a Thunderbolt. So yeah, that's easily going to take out my Snorlax. Crit wasn't necessary. But here I have a choice of things. I could go into my Aerodactyl, but that actually invites in Marowak. The way to guarantee that I get a KO here is actually going to my Kabutops and going for an Aqua Jet, because that way I think anything that comes in would basically go down to the follow-up move. So if I go Kabutops, obviously I can go for an Aqua Jet here. If he goes into Beedrill, I can take that out with a follow-up move, and nothing he goes for can KO me. If he goes Marowak, I KO that with Aqua Jet, so I mean Waterfall after the Aqua Jet. So I'm easily able to go for the Aqua Jet here and basically go from there. And the best play here probably is to sack Raichu, because Beedrill can still do some work, and I may have to rely on hitting a Rock Slide to take that out. So Beedrill could still do some stuff if I'm not careful, but at this stage Raichu goes down, and I'm looking really good with Kabutops. Neither of his remaining Pokemon handle it very well. I think Marowak does one-hit KO me with Earthquake, but if he gets flinched when I go for a Waterfall, then Kabutops just sweeps. So he might want to go Beedrill to try that, and actually he does go Beedrill. So now Beedrill can hit me with the Drill Run. There's no reason for me to switch though. I 100% think that I live, unless he gets a critical hit, which Drill Run has a high chance of critical hitting. But I'm pretty sure that just going for a Waterfall here is the best play, because yeah, that basically will allow me to take out the Beedrill with an Aqua Jet the next turn. Even if he does manage to like critical hit me with the Drill Run, I still have my Aerodactyl that can come in after. But we see the Drill Run go off here. I do survive quite comfortably and can just go for a Waterfall and yeah, take that thing down really low. Definitely put it in Aqua Jet range. He can't switch out to Marowak because that would die to an Aqua Jet and Waterfall. So Zazala is gonna go down to that Aqua Jet. Nice shiny Beedrill as well. Very good effort. I've only managed to get one of my team shiny, and that's a Nidoking, which I can't bring every week because I want different natures, so that's a bit frustrating. I'm pretty sure that's the only shiny one that I've got. Yeah. Oh no, I've got shiny Electabuzz too, but again, I haven't been able to bring that yet. So anyway, we're going to go for a Waterfall here. I'm not sure if it OHKOs Marowak. I don't think it does, because Marowak has a lot of physical bulk. But if we can get the flinch, then we've got the cleanup with Kabutops, and we can add to a load of kills from last week. But we don't. The Earthquake comes off, easily going to take us out from that range. But now we can go into whatever really and take it out, and because Nidoking's got a pretty good record so far, I thought let's give Nidoking the last kill. So this is another comfortable win for me, which puts me 3-0, which is really great. I wasn't expecting this one to go so far my way, but obviously there were some things that went in my favour, like definitely Poliwrath surviving that wing attack was pretty huge, because I think having an Aerodactyl around would really have helped Elliott out. It may have meant that he had a slightly easier option to go into on my Snorlax, which was causing him problems there. But the game went really well. Surprisingly, I didn't have to get up my Stealth Rock, because I thought that getting chip on everything with Stealth Rock would have been very important for me. But it ended up that I didn't need it, just because of the offensive pressure that Snorlax put on, and then putting everything in the range of my Kabutops. And I'm just so surprised at how effective Kabutops is. Just with its physical bulk, it can get an attack off against most physical attackers, and then take things out with Aqua Jet, and it's just very nice to have on the team. I think I underrated it, and I think everyone in the league underrated it till now, because it was picked really late on in the draft. But great battle to Elliott. Please go and check out his side of the battle, see what sets he brought. I would be really interested to see what Alolan Raichu he brought, because that I think could have caused me immense problems. So yeah, go and check that out. But that's all for this week. Please look forward to my week 4 match. Thank you so much for watching. I've been foofootoo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.